Okay, my name is Desmond Macfoy. My main goal has been ICT project manager and entrepreneur, looking at ICT project now in Sierra Leone. My background, I'm born in Freetown, attended St. John Primary School and then the Sierra Leone Grammar School. Graduated in 1999 with Bachelor Engineering, Honors Electrical and Electronics from Frobe College. My first computer experience was with BBC Microcomputer, which was in 1996 at the Frobe College. I started my first computer job with All One Computing in 1999, which at that time was the only computer center in Sierra Leone. And then I got my MBA with Institute of Public Administration. I'm in my late 40s, a telecoms engineer for the past 20 years, and I've been focusing more into telecoms project management. I'm passionate about using ICT tech for development to leapfrog Western legacy system, which we're suffering with. I'm married with 3 kids, a Christian, so say the telecoms engineer and project manager. I'm based in Freetown, Sierra Leone. I'm based with my wife. The kids are in Dallas, Texas. And we always, I'm on that side or they are here, but now because of COVID, I think it's a year now, we've been apart. Hobby, I love tennis, traveling, and listening to birds. As I said, I'm passionate about ICT project management, ICT training, and knowledge transfer. Knowledge transfer is something I'm so passionate about, and I always try to get involved and see how I can help. My background, as I said, I've been in the information and communication technology sector for 20 years, demonstrated successful story in project management, quality assurance, project development, cybersecurity, and telecommunication. I've actually worked in a lot of African countries: Sierra Leone, Liberia, Ivory Coast, Congo, Brazzaville, Kinshasa, Gabon, Central Africa, Kenya, Bahrain, and Lebanon. And I've got a lot of wealth of experience from turnkey projects, rolling out GSM networks in Africa, which I've been doing, and it's part of me now. Back in Sierra Leone, I think I was a project manager to deliver the first data center for Orange, the 4G technology as well. Introduce a smart hybrid telecom site power solution for Orange. The mobile money, I was a project manager for the rollout of the Orange mobile money, and a couple of vast projects for Orange Sierra Leone. Presently, Chief Business Officer for Knowledge Network Solution. This is my own business, offering ICT training, exam center, which we have 2 exam centers now with Knowledge Network Solution. We have a Persevere exam center and a PSI online exam center. In terms of industry expertise, I've been working with Ericsson, Huawei, Alcatel, Cisco, Sales, and FortiGate. I've been on this for years. Certification, I've got a CAPM from PMI and CompShare CSP. I'm also a member of the Project Management Institute in Dallas, Texas. For work history, I've worked in both the private sector and the public sector. In the private sector, I was with Seattle, Celtel, Comium. Then I went to Lebanon and Bahrain, worked for Bintel, Cytec Group. And then for a couple of years, I was Ericsson, and I was the head of Ericsson operation in Sierra Leone. Then Greennet, Airtel, and Orange. So I've been in and out from all of these companies. Some of them, they're in Sierra Leone. So virtually most of the mobile operators in Sierra Leone, I've worked with them. Lately, I was with NatCom. Before that, in the public sector, also I worked with DACO, which was Development Assistance Coordination Office. That was in 2004, and one of the projects I did there was delivering the first cadastral mining platform for the Ministry of Mines. With project meetings, I think I've been in several project meetings and workshops and achievement with, I think I'm happy about. For 2019, 2020, I've been fully involved in the Transformation Africa's project, which is led by Smart Africa Alliance, based in Rwanda. I was a project focal point for Sierra Leone in achieving a terrestrial fiber inter-Africa connectivity. I don't know whether you people know that now we have a direct connection between Sierra Leone, Guinea, and Mali for the terrestrial fiber. It's all done. The physical connection is there. It's only the governance model which is pending. Also, I was a member of the technical and legal experts reviewing the protocol agreement established for Smart Africa Alliance. I was also in 2019, 2020 member of the Smart Africa Alliance ICT experts, when we developed profile documents for identifying ICT projects in Africa. We looked at e-governance services, the digital ID for Africa, Africa startups, innovation ecosystem, ICT utilization, and socioeconomic. And from some of these, we had a meeting with the Japan ICT experts, where Japan is now ready and showing interest in some of these projects for ICT in Africa. One of the things that we which was highlighted was that, like World Bank and some of these international, they're more focused, you'll notice, into the energy sector, roads, but then there's little attention going to ICT. So for the Smart Africa Alliance, it's growing big in East Africa, as well as with the French countries. They're actually capitalizing on it because there's huge funding from the Smart Africa Alliance in Africa. I was also a member of the infrastructure working group for Smart Africa Alliance, and I know a lot of the projects which are ongoing for Africa at the moment. During the Ebola in 2014, I was working with Ericsson, heading the Ericsson field operation in Sierra Leone. And during that period, most of the expatriates, they left. I think 100% of them left. So with a small team we were able to maintain the Airtel network. And in fact, the network availability and uptime was improved. We moved to about 96%. I was awarded an Ericsson Most Valuable Player in 2014. Also, during the acquisition of Orange and the complete transformation of the network, I won the Orange Sierra Leone Employee of the Year in 2017 because I was project managing the complete technological transformation. And I was also awarded the Orange Telecom's Global Ambassador in 2017.
Okay.
Hold on, I don't know what's wrong. My slide movement. Hello?
Yeah, we still see it.
Okay. Are you seeing the same slide?
Yeah, we're seeing the slide where you're standing by the African Summit. Now we go to the next slide.
Okay.
Yeah,
in terms of entrepreneurship and ICT support, I started a Cell on Wheels, which I was 100% funding. It's basically, I was looking at IT literacy projects for teachers in Sierra Leone. So what I did, I got a chunk of laptops from US. I bought them and started a pilot project, and I approached 2 schools who accepted it. That was the Grammar School and St. Edward's. And we did a complete ICT literacy training for them, and it was successful. I went to the Grammar School, and it was so interesting that some of these teachers who taught me were ready to sit in class again and say they want to learn ICT. And one thing I realized that when the teachers got a field of what it is, they were ready to motivate pupils. They understand now when pupils says they are going to the classroom, they want to go to the IT room, and also they were taught Excel. And it's so interesting that if you look at the top, There's the woman with the glasses. She's late now. I think 2 months after we had the training, she passed away. But then one thing she told me, she looked at the Excel after she was taught how to do the grading. You can have the average, you can identify the highest score. And she said, if this can be done in just 10 minutes, why for years I've been doing this for 4 or 5 hours or sometimes days? And she was asking, why do we still stay back? We should introduce this and help them. So we see there's a lot of gap and they're ready to accept new technology, new change. I'm also developing presently a free ICT e-learning platform for senior secondary school. What I'm doing is I've captured the syllabus for the ICT school, and we're building up a complete e-learning platform so they can actually be able to, we can have that free online. At the bottom of the pictures, you see St. Edward's School, and you can see the man in the front with the glasses. That's even the principal, Mr. Wise. He was so, that's the first time he says, now I can be able to do my own letters rather than giving it to a secretary or going to a cafe to do it. So we see how much gap we have to fill in. It's not only having ICT in the schools for the kids. We need to bring the teachers up to speed. Also having a K-Hub Innovation Center, where I'm mentoring some youths who are interested in programming. I have the Big Luma e-commerce platform, which is running. As I said, I'm passionate about ICT, and I'm ready to transfer knowledge as and when it is. My contact is there, and I'm open for questions. Thanks so much. Feel free to ask your questions, and let's see how we can be able to help ICT in Sierra Leone.
Excellent job. Wow. I didn't know we had someone like you in the group. I wish I had known after spending 3 months to get access to the Orange Money API for use as a company. I'm still waiting for it.
Serious?
It's very interesting. I am very serious. I have spent about 3 months trying to get Orange Money. Ernest can attest to it. Both of us are partners, and we've been trying to get access to
over 3 months.
the mobile payment, right? The Orange Money mobile payment. And up to now, I think sometime this week, we finally was able to meet with someone in IT, and they have promised to get the APIs available to us, and we're still waiting. But long story short, I wish I had known you earlier. Maybe you will have been able to help point us to someone to get us that quickly. But you have a very impressive resume, and I'm glad you are contributing a lot to the community and back to Sierra Leone. So I think there is a lot we are going to be able to talk about together, especially on the education side. But let me leave it for now for others to comment. But good job.
Thank you. If you still have the problem with, I'm no longer there, but if you still have the problem with the API, we'll discuss offline. Because in my e-commerce platform, I have the API integrated. It's working.
We saw it in a couple of them, and it's just been a pain for them to give it to us. I don't know why.
Okay.
We'll talk about it privately.
We'll discuss, yeah, sure. Okay.
Yeah, there was I'm honest, and your presentation was very great, and a lot of interesting attribution, and it's good to know that we have someone in terms of reaching out, how we can enhance, how we can leverage that, those your contacts in those field of yours. In terms of the e-commerce, what e-commerce do you have in Sierra Leone?
Come again, what e-commerce we have?
What e-commerce platform? You said you are using the Orange Money on your e-commerce platform.
Big Luma, it's called Big Luma.
Okay.
Yes, it's a buy and sell platform. And what we're focusing is actually getting local vendors to be able to push their products online, and actually they'll be able to, people can buy online, and then directly they can actually have the transaction with them. So with the platform, you have two interface. You have the interface for the users, the customers, as well as the sellers. They have their own platform where they can be able to push their product directly onto the overall platform.
Interesting. I would like to learn more about your approach offline, so I'll give chance for others to comment. But yeah, I would like to know how big is the company, and what are your long-term goal, and if how did you build it? If you build it from scratch or you got some consultancy. But let's take it offline.
Okay.
Okay, Mr. Macfoy, this is Brian Williams. I don't know if you remember me. Let me turn on my camera.
Very well. I saw this face. How are you?
It's good to reconnect with you. Of course, I don't have any question. I just want to, we'll talk offline. It's been a long time. Guys, Mr. Macfoy once employed me a couple of years ago. So I had a brief taste in the telecommunication industry. So is the go-to man in terms of telecommunication in Sierra Leone.
Awesome.
Yeah, nice meeting you again.
So my question, when it comes to contribution in telecommunication all these years, how do you see the future in terms of what are things that you think that can be improved, but based on maybe the lack of skills and knowledge within the nation, or within this team, since we are diverse in terms of skills, what do you think we can do to improve those things in terms of telecommunication throughout the years that you work?
That's an interesting question. From my experience, both from the private sector as well as the regulator, I think there's much work to be done from the regulator point of view. You know, the telecom industry is dynamic. From the ITU, there are a lot of changes which have been done. And if from the regulatory point, they're not following up on this and implementing this, we'll still be having that huge digital gap. And we're missing so much opportunities which are coming from the ITU and supporting bodies for the telecom industry. You know, after moving to several countries, what I noticed, if you have a good regulator in place, you'll see a complete change in the ICT industry. Sometimes the operators, for every businessman, you want to maximize your profit. And they take leverage on the regulator, if it's possible. So from my point of view, I think it has to be strengthened. And also, my view from the telecom industry is that it is high time that there has to be a separation between just the communication and the telecoms itself, ICT. There is high time that in Sierra Leone now we have what we'll refer to as an ICT authority. This has been done in most countries now. If we still have a journalist taking care of the telecoms, we're not moving. I think for me, that's my key point I've noticed, because if you don't have that, what's happening now is just business as usual. There is no growth. I think I'll hold it for now at that point. Hello.
Yeah, this is Ali here. I think one thing caught my ear, which is like having a journalist run technology in the country. It's a weird situation, but that's really what the reality is right now, because we have the Ministry of Information and Communication, and Technology, which is the legislated entity that is in charge of running technology in the country, and they don't even have the power to do so. Their mandate, their mandate is limited. It's only around policy. That's it. Full stop. You know, so
Exactly.
they're there in the state-owned enterprises that are under that ministry that deliver technology-enabled services don't have the kind of leadership from the ministry. So the ministry has no clue what is going on there, and the guys are on their own. So there's really no leader. So I think that really caught my eye and my ear, and it's very, very important that we have that separation there.
It's really key. If you take it from from my view, you take it from the ministry down to the regulator. Let's say we want to do an assessment. We'll go from the ministry, say, how many employees we have here with years of experience, 0 to 1. You'll notice that with years of experience, 0 to 2, is around 90% of employees. Those with real experience are no longer there. You go down to the regulator, you'll find the same story. So we have an industry being managed by people who have no experience, no qualification whatsoever in the industry. So it's something which needs to be addressed.
All right.
That's a very valid point coming from you, based in Sierra Leone, having this many number of years of experience working. To some extent, it's a little relieving for some of us, because some of us have seen the same thing and have been talking about the same thing, but sometimes it feels like maybe it's because we are not in Sierra Leone, so we don't know enough. That's what some people always tell us, that this alone, you see what you would see. What you see behind are different. But coming from you in Sierra Leone, working in Sierra Leone, and actually who has hands-on experience doing the implementation, it's definitely eye-opening to anyone hearing this now, to just know that there is still a lot of work to do. We still have a whole lot of work to do. And you are right. 0 to 2 year experience is good enough, but you cannot build a serious industry with that number of experience, right? You definitely need to have a lot of them, but you have to have people at the top of that pyramid that is managing these people. You cannot just have doers and you don't have thinkers. That's how I always refer to it. You need to have people who do the thinking, and you need to have people who do the doing. The thinkers are the well-experienced, with many years of experience, with qualifications. They are paid to think. They are paid to strategize. They are not paid to put their hands on to do it. And then you have the other people at the bottom who are directed to do the stuff. And if you just have people at the bottom who are going to be relying on someone to direct them to do something, and that someone who is supposed to direct them is not there, then they basically don't do anything, which is exactly what's happening now. Because they are looking up for someone to give them direction. And if they don't get it, they don't do anything. And then we just continue to reverse. Yeah. So I don't know how we can fix that, but this is definitely a good discussion. We need to think about, how do we fix those type of situations? How can we as a group contribute in that particular area? How do we change that? In other words,
I think it's high time we start having some form of pressure group for an awareness that this 21st century, you need to have an ICT authority, which will create a complete standard across the board. In total, if you look in Sierra Leone, they tell you in the amount of money being invested in ICT, it's all standalone. Everybody having their own servers, everybody having their own infrastructure. It's not properly consolidated. I think so. We need to start having some form of push to say, hey, it's high time, let's get an ICT cadre in place. I think they had some form of CTO cadre, which was, they have them in the ministries, but then it's not properly consolidated. So I don't know whether this we can look at that, having a particular, having a document in place to justify that it's high time we have this. You go to Guinea, you go to, went to Burkina Faso, most of these French countries, Ghana, Nigeria, we don't need to talk about the East Africa, they've all moved. They've all moved. And you see great improvement. So maybe we can have a thought of that.
All right. Thank you so much, Desmond. That was an awesome presentation and conversation. Next, we have...
the last thing that will come before you go, Aminata, is maybe, Desmond, what we can start looking at as a group, and hopefully you can lead something like that, is creating some kind of writing legislation to basically split the Ministry of Information and Communication into two, so that you have a separate authority that's responsible for ICT, and then keep the information ministry as the journalist ministry. And who do we need to get first write it, how to do that division and how it will work, and then put legislation together and find some parliamentarians to lobby to sponsor such a bill and get it passed. If you ask me, that's, I think, how it's usually done. But where do we start? And I think you are definitely someone that is in a good position to be able to lead something like that. And I, for one, will say I'm all in to work with someone like you and anyone else that's interested in this group to put together something in writing that we can start using, one, to raise the awareness, and two, to get some parliamentarians on our side as a pressure group to push that type of legislation to make it happen. If there is any time for it to happen, it is right now, in fact, because yes, they are still divided, but it seems like there is a little bit of political will up at the highest level to focus on ICT. And if we leverage that, we might be able to succeed. We might be able to succeed right now compared to probably in the past, or we don't know what's going to happen if the government changes.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, we can. I'll start looking at that.
Yeah.
All right.
So let's talk. Just think about that, and let's see. Let's talk about this a little bit more.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Go ahead, Ali.
This is Ali. Yeah, interestingly, I actually wrote a Facebook blog on that, I think last week or so. I wanted to throw some light on the IT cadre that the ministry had put in place, where I had tried to implement. This was, I think, about 10 years, close to 10 years ago. With the help of development partners, I think it was EU, they established the IT cadre. You know, in the government, they have this cadre system where they have HR cadre that is led by HR, MO. They have the procurement cadre. So they have like a single management channel. So the IT cadre was formed. But back to this issue of the mandate that the Ministry of Information has. You know, when that ministry was formed, what IT or what technology would do to enable the government was not well envisioned. So a lot has changed. The world has outgrown the ministry. So when they formed the IT cadre, the idea was to have the Ministry of Information, which is supposed to be the IT ministry, to deploy technology resources across government and help government implement solutions around technology. And what happened was, when those guys they did a lot of hiring, and they attracted a lot of good people. Because the pay was good, it was above the average civil service rate. So that attracted a lot of great guys from the private sector, from telecoms, and they all came in there into government. And what ended up happening was, they sent these guys to a ministry and they have no authority in that ministry to make any technology decisions because the law doesn't allow them. And in Salona, with government people and the way they want in the Sabi law, the Sabi law. So those guys were stuck. And what ended up happening, they would send someone with about 5-6 years experience in technology or maybe more, and then turn them to a technician.
Hello, everybody. That was a fruitful conversation.
Very.
Can you see my screen okay?
Yes.
Okay. Network's a bit slow, so let's see how long it takes to load. Okay. So hello, everybody. My name is Kekura Musa. I just kind of scrapped this presentation together. But it should be nice and short, and yeah, let's get into it. So a little bit about me. Education-wise, I have a master's degree in economics and strategy from business from Imperial College London. I did my undergraduate at the University of Maryland, Baltimore County with a bachelor's in business technology administration with a minor in economics. But interestingly enough, all my work experience is in artificial intelligence and software engineering. Actually, my last job was as the head of the machine learning work stream for the London Liquid Studio at Accenture. I worked at Accenture for nearly 4 years, like 3 years and 11 months. And I spent the last year freelancing. And now I've started a company called Nawala, which is focused on helping people in the Sierra Leonean diaspora manage and track their constructions here in Sierra Leone by connecting them to trustworthy contractors and then finding interesting ways to, help them keep track of their build. So a little bit about me. I am a huge lover of combat sports. I don't watch any other sports. I don't watch basketball, football, American football, or what the world calls football. I don't watch, anything else, but I love boxing and MMA and all that stuff. I used to wrestle and I practice jujitsu as well. I was an AI researcher in progress. I was kind of gearing up for that before I started Nawala, but then that kind of just took over my life. But, I'm still trying to piece it back in a little by little. I love economics, product, and tech. So I could basically have endless conversation in those few domains. Otherwise, I usually just listen. And I started Nawala because of my mom's difficulties building in Sierra Leone, and just a few conversations with people in the diaspora. And then also, I'm really obsessed with large-scale infrastructure companies, companies that make massive impact in their environment or the world, and trying to understand the principles beneath the stories that are usually told. So just trying to understand how they get started, how they went from, a small, tiny thing or idea or MVP to a growth stage. How do they go from growth stage to, a actual corporate, large, massive corporate entity? What kind of impact do they make? And what are the underlying principles that tie all those things together? So those are the general obsessions of my life. This is okay. So about my daily work, I basically work on Nawala full time. I'm living now here in Freetown, and it's essentially visiting customer properties to do virtual tours or land assessments, interviewing users to learn more about, some of their underlying motivations and what are the key things to help solve some of the problems for them. Running experiments, which is, when you're bootstrapping a company, you have to do things really lean. So I don't do the build it and it will come strategy where I think a lot of companies do. And it's probably the number one symptom for like failing tech companies, which is building out everything that you think will work and then hoping it works. I run very, very lean experiments. I try to code as little as possible because I want to invest that in knowing what will serve it will solve the user's problems in like the most exact terms. Trying to engage investors, which is just kind of like a slow moving train. And then writing code. Those are basically what I do day in and day out. Some interesting facts about me. I was an All-American wrestler. I wrestled at UMBC, self-taught software engineer. As far as self-taught can go, I mean, I like to also describe it as having a lot of different teachers all over the internet. But essentially, I went from being kind of like a hobbyist coder. I started around 19. I turned, which is really weird to say, I turned 30 on Monday. And I feel like I'm still maybe in my very early 20s, but in reality, I'm 30. So I started coding around 19, and but I transitioned that into an actual job. I managed to convince some people at Accenture that I knew what I was doing, and then I had to work really hard on the side to actually make sure I knew that I was doing. In the last year, I've lived in 3 different countries, and I've been to 5, which is, I guess, a little strange to say during the COVID time period. But when COVID broke out, when it was just starting to happen, I was living in Portugal. So I lived 6 years in the UK, and then I moved to Portugal to find a cheap place with good internet to just like figure out, what the next big thing I was going to embark upon was, and try running some experiments there. And then I went to Brazil, and COVID was still not big, but it was picking up. There was some small headlines about it. I stayed there for 4 months as it blew up, just kind of staying in place, sheltering. And then I went back through London for 2 weeks and then back to Portugal. And then in December, I moved here. So, it's been an interesting last year. My master's program, I was voted most likely to change the world in 10 years. Do not think I'm on track to achieve that, but it was a nice little recognition. That's cool, interesting. And I also have a side project exploring innovations in farming. I think there's some really interesting opportunities and needs that is kind of required for, I think, the future of Africa and the world. And I will maybe at some point put together more detail on that. But for now, it's just some small exploration that I'm doing. My tech stack. So for deep learning, Python, I used to use TensorFlow a lot. I've been through a lot of wars with TensorFlow, but I've been transitioning through PyTorch. I think I like the general principles of how you interact with PyTorch a lot more. But that has slowed down a lot since I started Noala. I'm just very focused on that. Web, Angular, Ionic, Node.js, but serverless. So I do it on Firebase. And then I use Firebase for basically all my serving needs. And this stack was particularly handpicked over a period of time to allow me to build very lean applications for experimentation processes and limit the gap between experiment and if and when something does really hit the right notes that I may be looking for, then allowing that, it's set for its position to also handle any scale. And then I do this all in GCP. And one thing I noticed as I was going through writing this out was like all of this except for Python and PyTorch is basically Google stuff. So I think I have a small obsession with Google. And yeah, I think that's it. And so there's my contact information. There's my email. You can also email me at kekura.musa@gmail.com. And you can find me on Instagram or Twitter, which I don't use that much, but at Kekura Musa. And that's it. Any questions?
No questions, but maybe a follow-up. Very interesting, and I recently linked up with you, but I think it was Sa who mentioned you if I knew you. since
Right.
I'm also in the software. But I'm very impressed that you know, by just being self-taught, you were able to acquire a lot of not basic. These are not basic for me, because these are like tools needed for you to survive within the industry as a software engineer. And I'm very impressed. And I will also, you know, encourage all those others who are looking for a side project in IT to, you know, use you as a mentor and example, because you graduated as a business guy, and but at the end, because of your passion in IT, you end up acquiring a lot. And this is mostly how the industry is, because even when I went to university, what the curriculum is differs from when you start working. So you start doing a lot of things on your own, like Python, PyChart, Touch. Those are things you don't get at school, but you have to learn it on your own. So I'm very impressed. I'm very impressed. And I also have passion in farming, and I'm trying to see how you can use IoT to improve farming. And I guess we have to talk sometime and see how we can collaborate, because in terms of irrigation and how you can, you know, in terms of helping the community and, you know, improve farming. And you know, IoT can be very useful, and IoT with machine learning, imagine that combination. And that's something that I look forward in the future. And I see farming as one of the most sustainable, not career, but the maybe job in the future. But people don't know that because they think it's like a low-hanging fruit. Because in Africa, when you're a farmer, they see you as a poor man. But in the Western world, when you're a farmer, you're a rich guy.
Right.
So yeah, I'm interested in farming as well. I've been trying to see how I can, you know, try to not become a farmer, but how I can, you know, save the planet. Because according to you, and at some point, at some time, we'll be, you know, out of food. So how can you kind of try to cultivate so that there will be more food for Africa? And the questions I have with my people, like in Africa, I see the Chinese rice is cheaper than the rough rice or the African grown rice, and I don't understand that logic. You know, there are a lot of things.
Economic issue. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So there are a lot of things, but I like your profile, and I guess when it comes to, you know, if you need help with AI, and I'm not an AI guy, but I have a community backed with AI guys, people who have been doing machine learning before it became a phenomenon the past 10 years. But let's link and see how we can do and team up to do things in Africa, or Sierra Leone to be precise.
Wonderful. Yeah, I like the sound of that. I really appreciate that.
So, Kekura, I've got a quick question for you, right? This is just a quick one. So how do you use the deep learning, like the PyTorch, TensorFlow, and all that? Because I just like to know the African experience.
Oh, well, I haven't been doing it here. You know, I'm very much like, when it comes to building, I guess, a technology company, I kind of focus on the people problem first. So while I have the ambition to influence some, put some deep learning in there, I haven't found the opportunity where it solves a core problem. But if I was to do it here, it would be very difficult, but I would basically have to run everything on the cloud, which I do anyway. It's just that transaction between sending, you know, files back and forth from my laptop to the cloud servers. But yeah, I would probably run Python notebooks on like a GCP server and run my experiments that way. The only issue is that the processing time would be a little bit long.
I see. So for mainly your stuff, like, it doesn't have to be real time, correct?
No, yeah. I just think real time, if you're trying to build real time solutions here, I mean, you might as well start an infrastructure company. You got to solve some deeper problems first. It's better to look at, you know, what people work with today and how can you build around that.
I see. Yeah, because I use deep learning quite a lot, especially PyTorch.
Okay.
And we have a lot of issues with the Python libraries and all that. It's a headache.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and I think it's the only way we can solve, let's say, the camera problems with viewing outside, like when there is snow and all that stuff.
What kind of work are you doing with PyTorch?
So what we do is we do, let's say, for example, object detection. So it's mainly with cameras.
Uh-huh.
Yes.
Well, is this in the US or is this over here?
This is in the US. This is in the US.
Oh, okay. Yeah, if I was to think, for example, if you were to do object detection here, you'd need to have a model running on the device. So we do everything on Jetson. Okay.
TX2, yeah. So,
okay,
and also with your farming thing, right? We've been discussing on the side. So with my project, I can offer you, let's say, the topographical information of where the farm is, right? And I can offer you, let's say, the road on how to get to where the farm is, right? And I can also get you the soil content. How would that improve what you're doing?
Yeah, I'm interested in that soil content bit, because what I'm looking at exploring is actually micro farming, which is like less of a common dynamic, because part of the reason why farming hasn't taken off here, despite the fact that 60% of the world's arable land is in Africa, it has to do with lack of technological innovation and roads. It's very difficult to transport goods from typical, let's say, the provinces to here efficiently. And so one thing that's actually been done in Ghana since the 70s, and it's seeing some kind of like a technological surge in the US, is building microfarms. So like on really small plots, you could actually do organic farming that preserves the quality of the soil and actually produces yields at the same or higher than the more traditional farming methods. And you could do that and get that directly to market without having to have these large transportation costs. So there's a lot of economic questions in there, which I want to explore. But yeah, I'm really interested in methods that take not so fertile soil, make it more fertile, and then maintain that fertility year round while producing high yields through each season. So that's kind of what I want to look at. So yeah, I'm interested in that soil content.
Okay, yeah, so I can show you how you can get it with my stuff. Okay, thanks. Okay. Good work.
No, thank you.
Okay.
Any more questions from anyone?
Well, for me, this is Ali here. For me, it's more like a comment. I so love SLinT.
You and me both. I'll tell you.
I am loving SLinT every other day. We have resources. We have great resources here. We have inspiring stories here. It's just a melting pot. I think I like it. Now, one other thing that I wanted to say to Kekura was, I admire your free spiritism. I'm trying that too. To have the freedom to roam the world and do what you want and what you like. I think it's an opportunity that fear makes a lot of people not to take. Right. So it's awesome. Just be careful with COVID. It's not fun. No.
Do you have kids?
I do, and yeah. Oh, for me, yeah. Maybe for me it's even harder because I have kids. I have a wife, so I'm a politician at home.
So I can.
How about you?
We all love to travel. I have kids. I've been dreaming to travel the world, but I did travel. I've been to, I think, 15 countries, but I really want to travel, and Singapore is the next on my list before the COVID. And I have a lot of friends. Even I want to go to Afghanistan and, all those areas, and just to explore the world before I kind of settle down in Africa, in Sierra Leone. Yeah, but on a side note of the AI, and this is for Kekura and Moses, I have a use case for Sierra Leone, and I don't have time to work on it. And that's how I started looking into machine learning, because you try to find a problem, see if you can implement, find an actual use case for you to learn something, because there's no need to just go and do machine learning when you don't use it on a daily basis. So one use case I had was when I went to Sierra Leone I think it was 2012. And I wanted my birth certificate, and I went to the ministry or the place where and I saw them start looking at pages, and some of the pages were destroyed, and it's like even they can't find it, and you see stack pile of files, and but at the end of the day they found it. I have to bribe, but my point is I suggest this to even David Sanger, because what if we convert all those files to a database? We need to convert all those files or those booklets into actual files that can be searched and moved to a database. And for that, since it's been written by hand, you need to kind of train you need a model, so you can train to kind of rectify the right data that you can generate from the files itself, because it's just paper, stamps, and writing. So AI or machine learning, it's a use case that can be used for us to, I've tried, I saw some open source library, but you need the data, and you need to be in the ground in Sierra Leone to do some of those things. So while you're in Freetown, Kekura, you can explore and see if you can expand your network to get someone who is interested in taking this further, because it's something that is serious, and not only in that domain, but a lot of other places you go, you see like people are still stamping and signing, instead of going digital. And but how can you convert those files to make it digital? So first you need to scan them, but before you scan, at least when you scan one, you get the right information to a database. So first, it's a process. You need to train the machine to learn different handwritings and names, Sierra Leonean names and stuff like that. So one use case for you, if you want to expand but I guess maybe Nwala is enough for you for now.
Yeah, I mean, I do feel a bit swamped at the moment, but I'd say that it's a use case that makes absolute sense, and I can imagine that there's actually probably quite a few out of the box solutions that you can kind of hack together just to like, I think Google Cloud has something where you can convert documents into data, and you just have to, if I remember correctly, you just have to identify the fields. There are there should even be open source software for recognizing handwriting. So I think there's a lot of opportunity there. It's something that probably should be done. So depending on how much time I'm able to carve out for myself to do that, it's definitely something I'm interested in exploring.
For me,
this is great. This is Tamba Kekura. Thank you very much. This was a good presentation. Yeah, like Ali said, it's amazing. The more we do these presentations, the more we get to learn about each other and know all the different areas we are in. Yeah, AI is definitely a big thing. Like Ernest was saying, that's definitely a big business. I just don't know if the government is interested in doing it. I started one recently, basically digitizing the government gazette. Anyone here familiar with the government gazette? So the government gazette, it's like the official publication of the government. Whenever a new act is passed in Parliament, it's published in the Gazette. Whenever new appointments are made by government, it's published in the Gazette. Even if you get employed as a civil servant by the government, your name gets published in the Gazette together with the ministry you are hired under. If a company is wind up, that information gets published in the Gazette. So it's like the main government publication if you want to know about what's going on in the government. Most of the time, before they even go out and publish something to the public, it is first published in the Gazette and then it goes out. But that Gazette is not digital today, and it hasn't been for many, many years, right? There is a wealth of information in that Gazette. So what brought me to that was as a result of this previous Auditor General's report, and I was trying to figure out, how do I tell who was the permanent secretary at Ministry A or B when this report was created, or who was the minister when this report was created? and I wanted to write an freedom of information request to ask for the information. And while searching online, I found a website that's actually out of South Africa, and that has been digitized in this Gazette, and all of the information is in the Gazette. So they had few from Sierra Leone. I looked at them. So I sent someone from my office, and they bought 1 year worth of it for 2016, 2017, and we have started scanning. And once we scan them in Freetown, they upload them to a Google Drive. And I'm using Adobe software to convert that PDF into an accessible PDF, which makes it possible to search every single word and every single thing inside that PDF. And the next step is probably using some Python-like script to extract that information and load into a database, and whatever else we can do with it, I don't know yet. But there are many use cases like that. The birth certificate, like Ernest said, is another one. If you go Ministry of Lands, is another one. All the land documents are not digitized, right? It's all on paper. You go to Registrar General's office, when a company is registered, that information, most of it is not, it's digital, but the digital version is useless. The paper version is what has value to them, right? If you want to get the real information, you have to take the paper version and stuff. So there are use cases like that all over the place. And it'll be interesting to see someone come up with a solution to solve that. It's a huge one, and it's a lot more in the government, but I don't know. But so, that's definitely something any one of us here can look into. It's a huge opportunity. And it's not going to be only for Sierra Leone. It's going to be applicable to many other African countries, because they're all in that similar boat.
So I'd say what I've actually found out, right? It's not so much the solution. Would they be willing to use it, even if you offer it to them for free?
Yeah, that's a whole nother problem. But from a data standpoint, the way I look at it is, when I think like an entrepreneur, I think like, I don't even care yet about how I'm going to make money with it. I just want to get the data, right? Yeah. Once I get the data, then I can look into the data that I have and see what value is in that data. And the value in that data may be as simple as creating an application that can be used by the public instead of for free, but maybe you have to pay for the application. And simple use case for mine could be a background check, right? If you want to run background check on somebody in Sierra Leone today, it's very difficult to do that. But if I have all that information from different sources, it's already text accessible, and it can be searched by text or what. You can put the name Tambalamin in that application, and anywhere the word Tambalamin appear in any of those documents, whether it's birth certificate, whether it's Gazette information, whether it's company registration information, whether it's anti-corruption publication, any one of these places that it appears, it can pop in, and then you can do a whole lot of other things. That's just an example use case that I thought of, right? But at first I have to, let me find whatever data that's out there, let me put all together, and let me see what kind of insight will I get out of this data. And based on that insight, I can then think about who will have value for that insight, and then think about it from a marketing standpoint. That's the way I am approaching it.
Even from a marketing standpoint, it's maybe too harsh, but I look at it from even the usage. When I had the discussion the time I was in Australia on this, the guy told me that if they have this in a computer, he's not going to have a job.
Yeah, that's correct.
That was his first response. I said, look, you will have your job. We are just trying to simplify your job. It's like, no, we don't want it here. So you asking if they want it. I don't think they want it, but someone needs to, just try it and make use of it, even if if it's a private sector, as long as it helps them. Recently in Norway, one of my mentor or friend, he's also a data scientist for many years. He started a new startup, and what they did was they're trying to help lawyers to kind of have more like a tool where like you can look up for sentences or a specific name. Like let's say you have a list of documents, but you want to know if this name of this person is in all these documents in the whole office. Because when you go to court, you have a pile of files that you have to look up, and normally you need to go through each, trying to find the right sentence or where you have the reference. So they come up with a solution. So they got funded by the government because there is like it's not like the all government, but there's a functioning within the government that helps innovation. So if it's a viable product or concept, they will fund it. So they got funded some money to move it forward. But this is just like a use case that was valid and they make use of it. So in Sierra Leone, there are so many of these use cases, but also it goes to the loop. We talk about Desmond's presentation, how can you, because you need the internet, you need other resources and infrastructure. But if it's not well implemented, there are no legislation or maybe regulation, then even going there to start a business doing this, it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough. But yeah, if the skill sets is here in this group, it's not only in Sierra Leone. You can go to Ghana, you can go to other countries. It's sad that instead of doing it in your own country, you're going to another country. But yes, if it's called for going to Ghana, if you have what it takes, I encourage everyone in the group to go. But one key thing or one key problem I would like to solve in the coming years is mobile money. Because the mobile money in Sierra Leone for now, it's run within the telecommunication industry. So they are the one making the profit. I would like to transfer money from Makeni to Kailaun or to Freetown instantly without going through Orange Money or a free cell money, but I want it just to be independent and so that it's seamlessly, but you need to go through the banks. The banks don't have even an open API or maybe this PSD2 directives, which is in Europe, where like, all banks should expose an interface so that if I'm a member in this bank, I can also access all the banks that I'm part of. And that's also a regulation. We don't have it in Sierra Leone because if we had it there, I was also in the finance industry before going to IoT. I worked, develop apps there. So I see the potential of even doing this kind of things in Sierra Leone, but we don't have the regulation and it's very difficult. Me in the diaspora wants to go there and try out some things like this. I don't know. And that's why me and Tamba, we started something. We want to give it a try and see if it works. And, but already we've taken like over 3 months just to use an API from Orange, and we are going to be paying, or there is going to be a transaction fee. It's not free. So it's so funny that even the people who should help us to, accelerate this this process or this way of, improvement, they are slowing us down. And it's so scary that imagine if I don't have the patience it takes to do a business in Sierra Leone or in Africa, I'll just quit and, spend my time on something valuable. But yeah, it's interesting as Ali says. I like this group, and this is something that we need to do more often and encourage people to join. So, because just by being on WhatsApp is not enough, but we need to know our strengths and how we can help or collaborate.
And by the way, today, this is the largest group we've ever had in this Know Your Colleague session. I think we have more than 10 people for the first time.
Yep.
Good job.